edition of the Gateway Show on every Sunday evening from 6 to 7 p.m. live, broadcasting live on the number one talk station in Las Vegas. Also simulcasting on Facebook. So if you know anybody that wants to listen to this on Facebook, wherever they are, anywhere in the world, they can listen. Plus, it'll actually be a recording on Facebook after this is over too. Also, the show appears on YouTube as well. You just go to YouTube and type in Gateway and Sidell, and it'll pop up right then to our Gateway Miracle, whatever. You'll get, just put those words together and you'll get my station on YouTube also. So it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. And tonight, this is going to be a special pleasure for me. I'm interviewing a friend of mine I've known. It's time adds up even for you and I, Marianne. I think I've known you about 10 years now.
I think at least.
It might even be a little bit more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And I know. Anyways, I was talking to a couple other people, just how long we've actually known each other. And we've been she and I met in a group called the Rockstar Mastermind Group that Craig Duswalt does. And so Marianne is a very interesting, she's a former attorney, but I don't think she's been an actual practicing attorney for quite a while now. But she now is doing, I think, motivational mentoring. I think you do, I know you do motivational speaking, but I think you do mostly counseling and coaching, I think. But I'll let you explain what you actually do. But so we wanted to just talk. She and I both have a similar passion, which is how to bring love as a dominant force into our world so that we can bring it into our work and other parts of our lives and make life a little more pleasant. Oh, I see one of my friends. Hi, Debbie. How you doing tonight? Okay, so Marianne, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Robert. I do love talking about love in the world, but specifically in the marketplace, in our professions, our careers, because I think that's a place where it's often been taboo. And I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about the power of love, the vibration and frequency of love, divine love, all of that, right? So what I do actually is I work with professionals and business leaders. I help them to actually increase their income and their impact. And they do it through co-creating with God. So that is something that I've discovered through all my years and careers, that when we co-create with God, whatever our hearts desire, whether it's finances or promotions or client acquisition, when we co-create with God, we have just entered a world of divine favor and less stress and more ease, just the kind of ease and light that Jesus talked about. So that's what I'm all about.
I love it. It's fun to hear you put it in those terms. Divine favor, that sounds good, doesn't it, my friends? Divine favor. It's we all want to have the blessings of God in what we do. And you know something, Marianne? In my business, the way I'm practicing law, I have people. Sometimes they have everything from moderate to horrendous losses. One of my kind clients came to see me a couple months ago, and she's been in multiple clients, and her daughter had been a client multiple times. Well, she called me about a week after she came in to see me, and turns out her daughter was killed in an automobile accident.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's her only child, and only daughter. And so for her, of course, the very first thing I did when we called, I said, "Would you like me to say a prayer for you?" And that's one thing I do, which is a little bit unusual. There are probably some attorneys that do that, but I don't think it's the most common. And in people in those kind of situations, definitely are very, very appreciative of that.
Absolutely.
And in her particular case, she's still going through a tremendous grief and hasn't. I've offered to go with her to a grief group at my church, and she's actually said she would like to come, but hasn't quite put it together yet.
Sure.
By the way, as a side note to anybody listening, if you ever are facing grief, a lot of different churches have, like my church is a Lutheran church. It has a grief group. It doesn't cost a penny to go to it. It's not an evangelical thing. They're not trying to get you to join the church. And it's a great way. Oh, person who just posted on Facebook is one of the people that leads that group. That's funny. Her name's Elizabeth. It's a great way to come in and get some healing. You're still doing that, right, Elizabeth? I'm seeing her again on Facebook right now.
Hello, Elizabeth.
But I'd like to respond to show people that I'm hearing them. Well, I know
Sure.
they're hearing me anyway, of course. But Yeah, so but sometimes people are reluctant to go to things like that. Now, in this particular case, my client really isn't, but she's afraid to drive on the freeway now, and she lives on the other side of town. I think that's a real problem, and
Sure.
so it's just one of those things. But one of these days, I'm pretty sure she will come because I went to it when my dad passed away. Even though he lived a long, full life, and I was not gypped in any sense of the word, he lived till 99 and a half.
Hmm.
Still, it was a big change in my life when he was no longer on this earthly plane. And so
Hmm.
I went to the group for almost a year. Yeah, my friend says yes, they're still doing it. Yep, and they do. She does it a good. She and her dear friend, uh, Maddie also. They have these two ladies, and they just do a very nice job. They really do. And and then one of the things I've learned, by the way, is when I went to that group, is that people have every kind of story, and every response, by the way, to grief. And it's just how people learn to respond to it, and is there a way to what's the easiest way to heal? But the most amazing thing is I see people really heal. That's the amazing thing. Oh, it's
Yeah.
funny. She just posted their next cycle for grief share is starting this coming Tuesday, the 25th. Interesting.
Well, it's a beautiful work. It's a beautiful work. And I don't think there's enough people that know how to do that kind of work well.
You know, in this particular group, in this lady Elizabeth, you're actually right. And she's been doing it quite a while. I think she's been doing it 7 or 8 years, or maybe even longer. And I
Hmm.
think it's a special gift. Um, and it's because I've heard of some people going to some grief groups, even at other
Hmm.
churches. But the things
Hmm.
I heard that were said to them, based on the little I've learned now, are exactly the wrong things that were said. Like
Yeah.
you can't say to somebody, "Hey, what's wrong with you? You got to get your act together."
Oh, yeah.
That's the way
It's
you.
been long enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's been long enough.
Like who are you to determine that? You
Right. You
know?
can't say that
Yeah.
to people. And
Yeah.
and and that's the one lesson I learned. And um, is everybody has a very different response. Um, just one example, and the reason why I happen to relate to it a tiny bit because I went through it. Even my own dad, some of the same story. Some guy had passed away. I mean, he and his wife had died in the same accident. But when he got back home to his house after the accident, they'd already cleaned out all of her stuff out of the house. So he was angry, literally for over 10 years, that people took all of her stuff out of the house while he was in the hospital. And
Mm.
because that interfered with his ability to come to his own grieving. And so that,
Sure.
and,
Sure.
and something sort of similar happened to me when my dad passed it, when my
Mm.
brother showed up in town and suddenly they were throwing everything out. And I know
Yeah.
where they were coming from, believe me. And so I've released any issues about it. But see, I was used to showing up there, and it was very peaceful to me to having the certain things there. And then
Yeah.
suddenly, so we all have, but that's part of what's good about that program. It helps you understand emotions in yourself.
Yeah.
But that's not our main topic here tonight. So
But you know what? I just want to say that, all these stories are so helpful to people because so many people don't know what to say, how to say it, what's appropriate, what isn't. People get so tongue-tied. And I think that not to say that you would actually want to do this, but you could to create a compilation of stories of people and with some of the situations, but what are some of the myths? What are some of the things that would actually be helpful and what's not helpful? I think that could make a really nice book for people who want to. And I know there's a lot of books out there, but you've got actual stories in people's lives that could be very encouraging to others.
that's a yeah, interesting insight. I've the one thing in my business, I've got every kind of story you can imagine, and some of them
Yeah,
are just
I,
pure funny. I mean,
yeah.
or interesting. You know, I had this guy. I think he's since passed away, but this guy was actually um, uh, flying drugs in across the border. And his wife was a prostitute at one of the legal brothels, and so these wild stories come across my journey. And it's funny because he was a very nice guy. He was the politest guy in the world. But it's just kind of funny that these different things. That was probably 30 years ago now. But and then one day I got a call and he says, "I'm in jail. I think I'm going to be here the rest of my life. I need you to come down and write me a will." And so I went down to the local prison and went in there and helped him write a will. But somehow or another, he got out. But I mean, that's what I'm talking about, stories.
Yep.
It is, you know, laws. It's a mixture of different things, both tremendously fascinating and interesting, and also sometimes, but it can also be stressful anxiety producing too. So it's a little bit
Absolutely.
of all of
Yeah.
that put together. But so how do you, so that's my one way to bring in a kind of love. That's with prayer and trying to be understanding of some of the losses people are experiencing. But what do you do? What do you suggest in bringing love into work? Because you actually worked as an attorney for a while too.
I do. I worked as an attorney and I worked in corporate as a senior manager for a financial company. I have bartended. I have, you name it. I've done it. Business consultant and stay-home mom, then coach and consultant for the last 15 years. Here's the thing. Business is hard. Business is hard. The workplace is hard. It's filled with all kinds of challenges. People are always frustrated. People have so many things on their agenda. There's this top to bottom kind of thing that goes on. So business is hard. But I have found, and this is kind of my ninja secret, and it's only one out of many, but I think it's a very powerful one. And that is love believes the best. I think we can start there. If we start with love believes the best and we apply that, and you can ask me any questions you want to, what do I even mean by that? Because I know it's like, love believes the best. How do you do that? But when we believe the best about others, in whatever situation, I can't tell you how much better it goes. The outcomes are always more favorable.
I'm so actually there's a lot of I'm going to apply that in an example. I've got to go to a break right now for the radio, but we can still go on Facebook. So my friends who are listening on the radio will be back in 2 or 3 minutes. I got Marianne Amon here, who I've known for over 10 years now, and she's really a former attorney, but now coach and mentor to many people, helping them bring God's favor into their life, into business. Um, and oh, my friend Elizabeth, the one who does a grief group, she's so true, so true. Love believes the best. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, we're going to
yeah.
go to a break. We'll be back in just a moment. My friends, stay tuned. We'll be back in a second. It's funny. Now I'm resuming. They've gone off to the radio, but they will still hear this on Facebook. Um,
Sure.
that that's very important. I have an older lady that's a client, without going into too many details at all, but she's dealing with certain different kinds of emotional issues and problems, and it's easy to feel attacked by her. And I
Mhm.
have to remember what you said. Bring love to the story.
Well, how would you treat her differently? How would you think about it differently if you were believing the best?
Exactly, and I like that. I think that's going to be the secret on her case. Um, it's been a little bit. It has been a challenge for me. That's all I'm going to say. But it's trying to be compassionate, and compassion, by the way, which I think is a lot of the same thing, really, isn't it? Compassion is the key that for all of us, I think.
Mhm.
Compassion both for ourselves and for others, right?
Well, compassion is a very important component. But I also think that love believing the best is almost it's a little different in my mind. We can talk more about it on the show. I have an example I actually want to give you once we get on the show.
Okay, so remind me when we get back on because I want to hear
Yeah.
that example. Um,
Hmm.
I tend, by the way, I've obviously have multiple employees over the years. It's kind of interesting. Some of my employees, they're more cynical and they kind of believe that people are, whatever. They're just cynical about things. Or even attorneys. It's funny. Let's say we're being delayed by things on the other side. I've kind of learned 9 out of 10 times it's just because the attorneys are busy and there's nothing personal about it. But but on the other hand, what happens is clients and even a couple of my employees often will think, oh, that's just them. They're trying to make it harder for you. But
Sure.
I've mostly discovered it's just they're busy, overloaded, like all of us, right? And if you
Well, yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I think a lot of times people's malign other people's motives.
correct, and
They malign their motives, thinking actually not the best, but actually the worst. And I would just posit, how does it help you? How does it help the situation to think that about another person, right?
yeah, I'll give you a funny example. I was sitting in the airport one day, and I was just kind of in I call it sort of a trance state, just kind of looking there, not looking, really thinking about anything. And some lady came over and says, "Why are you staring at me?" and I,
Yeah.
and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even notice you."
Yeah.
But she was thinking I was staring at her or something. So people have a tendency to assume the wrong things, and
Yeah,
you start to realize that's a big reason why our world has. Okay, we're about to go back in there. It's why we have so many troubles in the world. People assume
absolutely.
what's not actually intended. Okay, here
Right,
we are. We're going
right.
back right a second. Good evening, my friends. This is Robert Sidell. This is the Gateway Show on every Sunday evening from 6 to 7 p.m. live in Las Vegas and the number one talk station. And we're also simulcasting on Facebook. And we have a nice group of people listening right now: Ernie, Elizabeth, Janet, and other people. And then some people will be listening later on. What will happen, my friends, is I'll go to a meeting or something later on the weekend. I'll say, "Oh, I've been watching your recording on Facebook." They're watching it at a later time. So that's one of the nice things about this. People don't have to listen to it live as we're doing it. Um, so, one of my friends, Susan. Hey, Susan, it's nice to see you on there. Um, and so it's just anyway, it's just a pleasure to be here. So tonight I'm interviewing Marianne Amen, a former attorney, and we're not really talking about her legal world too much, although she's got a lot of stories there too. But we're not going to get into those tonight, I don't think. Um, but she does a lot of coaching now and helps people bring kind of a spiritual approach to all different parts of their life. Is that a fair way to put it, Marianne?
Yeah, sure. That works.
But she just gave her what she calls one of her number one ninja rules. And I actually like this a lot already. I think I'm going to incorporate it directly. It's love is believing the best. Is that the right way to put it? Love is believing
Yeah,
the
I would
best.
just say love believes the best.
Now,
Love believes
so
the best.
what does that exactly mean to you when you say love believes the best?
Well, it means, first of all, it means like not to get, self-centered about it, but the first thing is it believes the best about you. It's very
Mm-hmm.
difficult to go into the world and be kind, compassionate, empathetic when you don't believe the best about yourself, because you're always jockeying for position. You're always trying to measure yourself and weigh yourself out, compare yourself. And if you don't believe the best about you, and for me, I always try to help my clients believe the best about them according to how does God look at you, which is always magnificent, more magnificent than you would ever think about yourself. But when you think about yourself in a positive way and you have a strong self-worth according to who God says you are, then you can go into the world and look at other people through those eyes. So love believes the best can start with you. And it's love believes the best about others. So here's a situation that I think brings the point home. When we were buying a house, this is back in 2020, and this was just so great, incredible to me. We made a decision that this was going to be the easiest, smoothest, most enjoyable move ever. And the reason we did that was because my husband had cancer prior, and we were still kind of going through that. We needed this to be the easiest, smoothest, most enjoyable move ever. So we decided that everything was going to be in that framework. So, things happen. Always things happen. You need more money. You need more forms. You need to prove this. You need to prove that. And I felt in some ways like that thinking, believing the best about how everything was going to go, made me kind of like Wonder Woman, throw it at me and we're going to
Uh-huh.
deal with it, right?
Right.
So 5 days before closing, everything is going smoothly. So far, 5 days. And we find out that the IRS had put a kibosh on our process, and they were unyielding, and they were not going to allow us to close because there was something on our record from years ago that never got off.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't supposed to be there, but in order for her to remove it, it was going to take weeks and weeks.
Uh-huh.
And she was not willing to do that. So I called, her name was Cynthia, and I called Cynthia because I found all this out in a letter. So love believes the best. I decide that Cynthia is here to help me.
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia isn't here to oppose me. Cynthia wants to help me. So I pick up the phone, Cynthia answers, and I say, Cynthia, how are you doing today? Listen, I know we have a problem here, but I know you want to help me. Well, Cynthia didn't agree with me.
She didn't agree that she wanted to help you, or just
No, she did not agree with me that she wanted to help me. It was like a fantasy in my mind, she's thinking, right?
that's pretty
I
funny.
already know my position, and no, this is how it stands. And I'm like, Cynthia, listen, we have 5 days here. Everything's gone great. I know we can find a solution. I know if we put our heads together, we can find a solution. We went through this back and forth, and she's going, there is no solution. There is no solution. This is not going to work. And then all of a sudden there was this pause, and I just decided favor. I'm going to just proclaim favor here. And once again, I said, Cynthia, I know you don't want to be the reason that we can't close on our house. So what is it we can do together? All of a sudden she pauses, and then she says, well, she finds this out of the box. Don't tell anybody. And everybody wants to know, what did she tell you? What was the secret? I can't tell, right? I can't tell. But what she did was she came up with something that was doable. And not just that, but to fix it posed another problem. How is it going to be registered in enough time for the closing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she fixed the problem for me, number one. Number two, she then says, I will talk to your title person and tell them personally that this has been removed.
Wow.
When have you ever known an IRS agent to do that? Right?
Yeah.
So the title person said, no problem. Cynthia talked to her. I sent Cynthia an email and I said, thank you so much. You made my day. I so appreciate you. She writes me back and she says, no, you made my day.
Really, that's beautiful. Um, well, you know what?
I, go ahead.
Here's what I would say. One of my friends, Susan, says is beautiful. You know what eat would have been the more normal, human and understandable response is if you started to get
Absolutely.
jammed into your position and got angry and these IRS agents, blah 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 blah, and just push her in a corner, and she would have never budged at all, right?
Right. And I wasn't trying to be manipulative with her. There was something that I felt inside because I always want to see the best in people. It's a practice. It truly is a practice. And I don't do it perfectly by any means. But this particular day, it was on, and the vibration and the sentiment was flowing. She somehow caught it. And I think that's the power of love. When love believes the best, it becomes an energy. It becomes a frequency. It's straight from God's heart to you into that person's life, you know? So I think it's a very powerful thing. She was she was an opposer. You know, she was there to thwart me, but she went from that into being an ally. You
And
know,
that's
so
because you brought love to her.
yes.
I mean,
See, and that's the power of love. It can take obstacles and turn them into people who are obstacles and turn them into allies. And that's a beautiful thing when we're talking about that, especially in the marketplace, right? People are always trying to stand on their tiptoes, trying to assert their rights and make things happen. And they're just not going to let people get away with this and get away with that. But what about when people can actually come on to your side and you can help them to help you?
You know,
They really want to.
I that's by the way, in a nutshell, you're summarizing the system I use to settle a lot of my cases.
Oh,
But
beautiful.
you've actually you've actually given a label and a way of structuring and explaining it.
Mm, mm.
And it's no, uh, that's beautiful. So you brought her love and just brought love and believing the best in her instead of probably 9 out of 10 times she gets people attacking her.
I'm sure. And she was ready. She had her dukes up right from the very beginning, you know? So you do have to expect that. You do have to expect that people in certain positions are feeling low. They're feeling taken advantage of. They're under the gun for a whole lot of reasons, you know? So if you can be, you know, compassionate and empathetic, you don't have to even say it. You just have to feel it. They can feel that. That's also an energy. That's part of love.
It is part
Yeah.
of love. And like I said, I've gotten to the point where when I negotiate cases, because I've done it so many years, I've been a lawyer now for 48 years, and
Mm-hmm.
I just decided I want to make it a happy experience.
Yes.
And I would say 9 out of 10 times the adjusters say, they actually say something like, gee, you're the only person that really talks to us and as people, you know. So it's just like you're talking about. And so nine out of
And that
10,
really differentiates you in the marketplace too, Bob. You know, it differentiates you in the marketplace.
I think that's probably true. I mean, it's a different style. I and I've had more than one person tell me. They said, what they'll tell me is that attorneys don't realize, or their employees, that if we have a choice to help you or not, if you're
Mm-hmm.
being angry and I'm happy with you, we're not going to go out of the way to help you. You know,
Right.
but
Right.
if somebody you're being nice to somebody, they're not going to give away the farm, but they'll go quicker to a resolution that could work.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. It's really about, rather than, fighting your ground, how can we move forward together?
that's happens to be my approach. Everybody's different, and so
Hmm.
you're speaking my particular style as an attorney, um,
I know.
and so it's reassuring to hear you say that too. And not everybody can relate to it. I mean, not so much the adjusters, but I haven't had this problem for years. But once in a rare time years ago, somebody would show up and say, "I think you're too nice," and that usually, let's say the woman had chosen me, and the husband comes in and says, "You're too nice," you know, that probably hasn't happened for 10 years. But
Well, and that speaks to an issue because a lot of times, especially in law, people are looking for pit bulls. They think the person that is going to be the meanest, strongest, baddest ass in town is the one that's going to do the best for you. Because people don't trust love in the marketplace. They don't trust love in any of these types of situations,
right,
and I understand that. I mean, I used to be a prosecuting attorney. And so cynicism is really high. When you see corruption all the time and you see, the worst
right.
part of human nature, right? It's very easy to fall into that trap.
Oh yeah.
But I
Oh,
know for me, my soul was just dying because I don't want to live life that way.
me either. But we're gonna have to go to a break again. But I want to continue this conversation on the break on
Sure.
Facebook. So yeah, you're sharing. Love is seeing the best, right? Or believing the best.
Believing the
I like
best.
that. There's a
Yes.
person I'm going to use this specifically with.
Yeah.
My friends, this is Robert Sidell, Gateway Show. Be back in just a moment. For those of you on Facebook, stay with us. So I want to tell you a story sort of like that, um, that it happened in my life. So it reminded me of the same thing. I had, this goes back a number of years and nobody would know it is, so I can say this to you. I had an employee, this about 10 years ago or maybe 15 years ago. Um, Las Vegas is one of those places where to graduate from high school, you had to pass certain basic proficiency tests. And if you didn't pass, you couldn't graduate. Or if you
Mhm.
did, it was with some inferior degree. I can't remember, but whatever it was, you've heard of that kind of stuff before, probably,
Yeah,
right?
we call them in our school, it was regents,
They call them what?
the regents exam. It
Oh,
was a
okay.
certain kind of exam that, that if you wanted to go on to college, you needed to have a regents
Okay.
exam.
Whatever it is,
Mhm.
they literally wouldn't graduate. There was back in the theory when they said a degree should really mean something. So this employee came to me,
Way back then.
yeah, way back, and I'm purposely not saying when it was, but you'll see why in a second. But so this employee came to me, and by the way, all of her family had flown into town. They were all getting ready for the graduation. Hi, Jonelle, nice to see you. Hello, Capri, nice to see you. Um, so so she came to me. She goes, all our family has just flown into town from out of town, some Texas, other places. And she goes, is there anything you think you could do about it? I said, well, I don't know. Is there somebody I could call and talk to? Say, just maybe they have some idea, kind of like that IRS story you're talking about. So I called up this guy. I think he was the principal or something. And I was explaining the story, and I said, well, any chance she could take the test again? He goes, well, let me ask you this. He goes, how many times can somebody keep taking the bar exam? If you just took it, you can't just take it again right away, can you? And he says, he goes, I've had people flying all the way from India, and I've had to tell them they don't graduate.
Mm.
And I said to him, you know what? I said, that must put you in a tough position. And he goes, yeah, it does. I said, well, I just wanted to call and and check it out with you and see if there's any options. But I do understand what you're saying, so I just want you to know, wish you the best, and thanks for taking the time to talk to me. And I just
Mm.
hung up. Goodbye. About 5 minutes later, an employee comes running in the room. What did you do? I said, what do you mean? She goes, they just passed her, and she graduated.
Mhm.
And and I didn't even have to ask him much of anything. But if I
No.
but if I had been, uh, but that was the grace part. I mean, I'm absolutely positive what you're talking about. That was pure grace. and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
uh,
But
and
what if we operated like this under this umbrella, this heart, this motivation all the time?
well, let me tell you this. This is I'm going to sound like being really air. Oh, I'm about to go back to the radio. Maybe just as well.
Okay.
That's good. Hold on. Good evening, this is Robert Sidell. Welcome you back to the Gateway Show, broadcasting live on the number one talk station in Las Vegas, all over Las Vegas, and wherever. By the way, this can be listened to on the internet anywhere. By the way, just the call letters KXNT. But also, we're also simulcasting on Facebook, so anybody can listen to Facebook anywhere in the world too, and no radio required. And you can also listen to the recording later on. I'm interviewing tonight Marianne Amen, a former attorney. Well, she's still probably technically an attorney, but she is someone who is sort of actually, she has a very similar philosophy to me. She tries to bring love into her transactions in life, and believes it's a practical thing to bring even into business. And and Marianne, I'll tell you what's interesting for me. Sometime for the fun of it, you should look up my reviews on Yelp for attorneys in Las Vegas. And I believe at the moment we still have some of the very highest five-star reviews of anybody in Nevada, simply
Beautiful.
simply because even though we don't advertise, because we try to bring a loving attitude and a
Yes. Yes.
personal
Yes.
philosophy, and
Yes.
so people do like that.
Yes.
They do like
You
that.
know, there's another Bible verse and it says, love never fails.
I think that's right, and I think what it is, people don't believe that's true,
No,
and
they
listen,
don't. And their idea of what love is also, I think, a little skewed because when they think of love being mamby-pamby or being like martyrdom or sacrificial rather than a win-win. Love can be a win-win type of attitude, right? It doesn't mean that you have to give up all your rights and all that you believe in just for the sake of somebody else. That is not true love. You know, that's not the kind of love that we're talking about here.
right, and you have to communicate and kind of I learned this from one of my spiritual teachers from many years ago. You have to recreate the other person's point of view too. Like I'm thinking of like the war in Ukraine. I I was always disappointed that nobody in our country ever reached out to Russia the whole time, that whole war. And nobody
Mm,
ever picked up the phone and said, it always sort of shocks you when I hear things like that. What? Nobody even tried to see, hey, maybe there's a possibility here we could resolve this. And it's like, and a lot of attorneys are like that too. They just sort of have this
yeah,
philosophy: we've got to push it through litigation. We're not going to
yeah,
pick up the phone and call. I always like to have the philosophy: I'm not too proud to pick up the phone and call.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
found some sort of magic frequently happens. Um, that's a tough story. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to condemn anybody or anything else. But I think communication does so much good. I mean,
yeah.
just get the voices being spoken, you know?
Well, and it depends on what you're communicating to. You know, I think that communication done with an attitude of respect and compassion, sure. Sometimes people like there's an old Bible verse that says, tell the truth in love. Well, some people have been hurt pretty badly by that, you know. But I was going to share too, another application that maybe your listeners could benefit from is, love believing the best in our relationships. A lot of times, family relationships can be very difficult. And um, we can malign the motives of some of our family. When they say something to us, we'll interpret it in such a way that we'll feel wounded. Will interpret it in such a way, well, I know how they meant it, right? And usually when we do that, we are interpreting it in a way that is against us. So somebody will say something like, um, why well, I can't even think of an example now, but somebody will say something to you that you will take offense at. And
Right.
therefore, you now want to put up a wall.
Right.
Now you want to not talk to that person. Now you want to give it back to them. There's all kinds of things that go on when that happens. And I'm the person that has thrown cake at somebody because I was so mad at them. So it's not like I haven't had my share of temper tantrums and, bad relationships. But I think that's why I've learned this as well. When we think the best about a person's motive, so somebody says something to us that we perceive initially as maybe cruel or unjust, or it's a false accusation. If we can believe the best about that person, it takes the sting away from us. It actually helps us to process that and not deepen the wound. So I'm trying to think. I'm sorry, I don't have a good situation. I had here's one. I was in a group, and this isn't a family situation, but I was in a group, and the leader of the group falsely accused me of something. And it was painful to be accused of something that I knew I didn't do, but she was convinced I did.
That's tough. That's a tough thing to face, isn't it?
It's a tough thing to face, and especially that she was a leader. I felt betrayed. I felt like maligned. I felt people were talking about me, right? And my initial thing was to defend myself and to say that's not how it was. And that just kind of caused an argument between the two of us. So I
Hmm.
had to distance myself. I had to just step away, and I had to say, love believes the best. So what would that be? What could possibly be the best? What could I possibly think, or what could I possibly believe about her or that situation that I perceived was so wrong, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm not trying to make excuses for people. However, I do know that she is a person that is very careful about all her boundaries, about people taking clients or customers away from her, about, she's insecure. Though she's a leader, she's insecure. And through her insecurity, she then lambasted me, right? Okay. Now, number one, if I understand that, then I'm not going to take what she's done personally. It isn't about me, it's about her, right? It's about her own insecurity and her lashing out. Okay, well, that helps me and soothes me a little bit so I can love believes the best about me. But what can I believe the best about her? She needs love. So instead, I'm not going to have a conversation with her because she's not open to that. But what I can do is this. I can think about her, I can visualize her, and I can actually stand there in the direction she's in, and I can just send love, waves of love. When you send waves of love, and first is forgiveness. I mean, when you forgive, you release the power that person has over you. But then the next thing is sending waves of love and actually meaning it and asking God to bless that person, that whatever it is that's making that person insecure and behave that way, that their heart would be full of love, that security would come upon them. And I think when you do that, you are actually taking that negative situation and now adding love into the world by that practice. So that maybe helps. That may be helpful to someone. Yeah.
And that's yes, and that's not again not easy to do all the time, is it? And
No.
so, did she ever clear up this false thing? I'm just curious.
No.
Interesting.
No. No, she chose to, what she did was she wanted to get from me this reassurance that the things she accused me of, I would never do again.
But you never did.
So
She never did it to begin with. So,
I didn't do it to begin with, right? So basically I said, I can't promise to do something to not do something again because I didn't do it in the first place. However, let's just agree to disagree, basically.
well, that's
Let's just
sometimes the
agree to
best thing you
disagree.
can do at certain times. By the
Yeah.
way, you've probably heard this before, but it sort of implements exactly what you're talking about. You've heard about
Mhm.
the Hawaiian healing prayer, right? I'm
Oh,
assuming.
yes.
I,
Ho'oponopono.
yes, I use that a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, all the time. I mean, I use it a bunch of times every single day, and even in my relationship to God. Uh, watch this. I'll just do it for the fun of it. Heavenly Father, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you.
Mhm,
Or it could be
mhm.
anybody. Marianne, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you.
Right,
And,
right.
or what I find is that, let's say we have siblings, or things could be going back to the time you were 12 years old and you have a little grudge in your heart about something.
Yeah.
And the person pops into your head. Oh, you remember this event? I saw somebody on Facebook posting something about some health condition he had, and this is so funny because it was just like an episode of Frasier I saw once. This guy had done something that was fairly, when I was in Boy Scouts, when I was 12 or 13 years old, that was very kind of rude and unkind to me. And all these years later, I still remember that. And and I saw him post something on Facebook, and my emotional reaction was something like, my first reaction was, well, it started to be,
You almost got triggered.
I did. It was like, well, you deserve this or something. But of course I wouldn't have posted that anyway. But actually, instead, what I did is I said, you know what? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. And I just cleared that in my psyche with him. I don't have to speak to him, but it's so funny because, did you ever watch that show, Frasier? Do you know what I'm talking about? The Frasier show? Yeah, we can hear both of you. Use beautiful women
Yeah.
there. Um, so Janet's the same age as us, by the way, Marianne, and very.
Yay.
We only have about 2 minutes left. I'm so glad we got this recovery here. Literally the
I know.
Wi-Fi at our house in this neighborhood just dropped dead. That was the problem. So now we're using the cellular connection, which is really not very good at all, but that's all right, just enough. So Janet, go ahead and just give us a nice thought,
Mm.
okay? Give us a thought on love.
Oh, unless I was now you would say that after I have something else in front of me. But
It doesn't matter.
hold on.
Whatever you
Let
have
me
in front of
find what I was
whatever you have in front of you is
a
fine,
good
Janet.
oh, I know. What we were just talking. Yeah, well, that most people believe in conditional love, but it's unconditional love is what our goal should be, you know.
Then
Yep, that's what
Unconditional.
we're talking about. Mm-hmm.
so Marianne, just
So,
give us your website in a second, just in case somebody wants to reach out to you, because we're going to run out of time in a second.
Yeah, well, you know what? The best, I have a website, but actually the best place to get a hold of me is on Facebook.
Okay.
So if you just go to Mary Ann Amen on Facebook, you'll find me.
Okay. And
Yeah,
if you have trouble getting in contact with her, just
yeah.
reach me, and I will tell you how to get in touch with her. So, uh, well, we got a little. I didn't think we'd even get a little bit to finish this up, so I'm thrilled that we got it connected
Hmm.
back on again. Only my son figured that out, how to do that. But listen, yeah, they're putting on the finalized music out. We can actually talk just a tiny bit more on the internet. I mean, on the Facebook for a second, because it is still broadcasting to Facebook. By the way, Marianne, Tim Gillette said to say hi to you. He's on Facebook. Okay, my friends, those
Uh,
of you listening to the Gateway Show, remember,
nice.
God is real, miracles are real, and the best is yet to come. Have a fabulous week, my friends, on the radio until we get together again next week. God bless. This is Robert Sidell and Marianne Amon and Janet as well, Reverend Janet. And those you two could stick around for a second more then. Okay, I think I'm clear.
okay.
Am I clear?
Sure.
Am I clear now, Ashley? I think I am. I think Ernie's showing up. Hey, Ernie, do us a
There's
prayer.
Ernie.
Ernie gives wonderful
Ernie's
prayers.
here.
Yeah, he just showed up on here.
Oh,
Ernie, give us your prayer, okay?
there he is.
I know you probably prepared a prayer for us. Say a prayer for us, okay? Can you hear me?
Okay. All right, Robert. I'll say a prayer quickly. Okay. The prayer is about how we, I'm sorry. Okay. The prayer is about how you can bring love into your business and personal relationships as a healing force. Dear Lord, we give gratitude and thanks for giving us this miraculous life and guiding us through walk in life. We pray that we open our hearts to believe in the infinite love. We have complete trust in God to walk with us and protecting us in our journey. Guide us to be in awareness, to acknowledge our existence and way of life, but trusting great divine spirit, and which in turn inspires our daily life to experience love into our business and personal relationships as a healing force. We pray for each one of us to have trust in our Creator that everyone in this world will experience bringing love into their business and personal relationship as a healing force, experiencing happiness, creating heaven on earth, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you so
Amen.
much, Ernie. This is our,
Amen.
by the way, this is our miracle that we got this, even with all these problems, we got this little closure here. And, uh, and Janet, do you want to finish a couple more thoughts too? And then I'll let you finish also too, Marianne. Did you want to share something,
Oh,
Janet?
well, when Ernie was talking, I just want to bring up, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Go ahead.
oh, I just wanted to, okay. All I want to say is something from when he was reading his prayer that I thought of that's in the daily word, that wherever we go, wherever we are each and every moment, should consider it holy ground,
Mhm.
and love is there.
That's right. Love is
Beautiful.
the essence of it all.
You know what? I want to tell you, I needed this show
Mhm.
tonight for multiple different reasons. And it's a very healing show for me tonight. And we had some fun with playing around with the technology, right? And it's one of those examples. We could get all upset. It shouldn't be that, right? It should be this way. It shouldn't be this way. But you know what? That's the way it was. And yet somehow we pulled the rabbit out of the hat and be able to have a nice closure here. And you can see Reverend Ernie always puts a very creative twist on prayers. I don't know that's the right word is twist. And then Janet always brings a very loving. Janet does weddings, a lot of weddings, Marianne. So if you know somebody who wants to get married, Janet is a very
She's
loving.
dead.
She's
Yeah.
she does a great job of that, and she always brings a very kindness to it. So
Mm,
so, Marianne, I just want you to know
beautiful.
I really, really got a lot out of what you said tonight because, even in my work, sometimes, it just seems like you're up against one wall after the other. And it just, you reminded me, let God go before me and open the doors. Part the sea, right? Part the Red Sea. God can go before us and do that. Do you have a final word you want to
Love
say,
believes to
Marianne?
death.
Do you want to say a final word,
Yeah.
Marianne, before we close up then?
No, the only final word is that, love works. That's it. Love works. And of course, like, Janet, right?
Yes,
Right.
yes, Jen.
We were talking about it's love is as the unconditional kind of love. We're talking about, and people will say, well, only God can love that way. Well, God is in each one of us and God flows in us. We are one with God. And so we have access to that kind of unconditional love for ourselves and then for others. So if we practice letting that oneness, that love, that source of love flow to us and then out to others, we just get better and better at it. And then we become people that naturally radiate love wherever we go. It
That's
becomes pretty effortless.
That is so beautiful. Well, listen, you both, all of you, each of you, Ernie, by the way, Ernie is 79. Are you 79, Ernie?
Yes, I am. Yes, Robert.
Ernie,
Wow.
Ernie's
You're
an,
really
he actually still teaches elementary school. No, high school, right? High school.
good for you. You look great.
Thank you.
You do. You look great.
And
So do you, Janice.
Oh, thanks. We all do.
We all do. Yeah, yeah.
I think I like to believe a little
So
bit of vanity is if you focus your life on God, you age a little bit better. Now, there's no guarantees in this, but I think it helps you somewhat. So, well, listen,
there's a really good Psalm. I won't give it now, but Psalm 92 talks a lot about aging and the benefits of aging and how God views it all. So that's one for you guys.
you want to,
Psalm
I'll tell you
92.
something.
Okay,
I
thanks.
actually, and people are still listening, by the way, on Facebook, even though the radio show's over. Radio people won't hear this, but there's still people listening, and this will be part of the recording. I I think there's quite a few benefits that come as you're older, and I can relate to younger people, and they're not threatened by me as much, because I'm older now, and so I kind of like that. You can say things, uh,
Yeah.
and I came to a bar luncheon actually it was about a year ago, and there were all these different people speaking, and then they had me speak, and the guy looked over and says, "Robert, you know what? Why don't you just talk to us about love?" And so I talked to this whole group of attorneys about love. Is that neat? You know, you might think, well, they wouldn't want to hear that.
Absolutely.
They wouldn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But, I'm getting older, so I can say
Well,
things like that.
Robert, I do think the tide is turning. I think in this world, people are so tired of hatred. They're so tired of fear. They're so tired of people holding everything close to their chest and judging. The world is craving love. It is craving love. So this is love's time. It's love's time.
Well, it's funny you mentioned
Would you
that.
guys not agree with that?
What do you think, Janet and Ernie? You think that's true?
Yeah, I think it's true, but I also think it's always been true.
I don't think the craving has been true, but love has always been true in my mind. Love has always been true, right? But I don't know. Maybe you see it better more than I have, but I think right now I'm noticing a huge shift in the craving of it.
I think so.
Yeah,
Actually,
maybe not.
I agree with you. I just happen to agree right now. There is a craving
Mhm.
in general because there's been so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
hostility floating around in our
yeah,
society. And I think the
yeah.
more we can supply love, and that's kind of the message that came to me recently. For the rest of my days on earth, I just want to work on sharing more love. That's the main thing I want to do now. So, um,
Yeah,
well, in Reverend
yeah.
Ernie, he does a great job.
Well, I think for Janet and Ernie, keep doing what you're doing.
And Janet, you can see
Keep
how,
doing what you're doing.
and you should hear some of the
Yeah.
stories Janet has about her weddings.
And you as well.
Well, listen, I'll just say this to you then. I've been
Yep.
broadcasting literally at my son's
My
house,
stories, yeah.
and I have a little grandson downstairs, and they're all playing downstairs. Um, so I'm so glad we were able to finish this up. Now I'm going to go down and join them. But I want you to know, this is my little prayer for everybody listening, and for all three of you too. Anybody listening to this
Have
show,
fun.
may God's infinite love be out protecting us, guiding us, and folding us in all of our relationships, and may it spread out over the world and open a new paradigm of love on this earth that we could have never imagined. It's so wonderful. So I just pray this in the name of Jesus Christ and all that is good. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you both, all three of you, so
Amen.
much. And you really,
Amen.
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 you contributed so
Have a-
much to my life tonight. You really did. But all of you, love you, each one of you. Love you, each one of you. All right.
Beautiful.
We'll
Love
Bye.
you. Have a great week,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
all right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care of
Bye-bye,
yourselves.
Bye. Have a
Miriam.
great
Bye-bye,
week.
Janet. Bye-bye,
Bye,
Robert.
guys.
Bye. Good night.
Bye bye.
Good night.